Welcome back, travelers. In version Luna 1 of Genshin Impact, we will get an event that will focus on getting a free constellation for any of the limited characters or standard characters that are present in that cycle. It's called something for the Tempest or something event. It is a permanent event that is set to run and change every 12 weeks. So for the first 12 weeks, you can choose a character and then aim to get their constellation. Then when this cycle repeats itself, you can choose another character and aim to get their constellation. So in a way, you can get free constellations without the need of having to put in 80 pulls or 160 pulls onto their banner or keep on waiting for their reruns if you want more copies of them. Now the only problem with this is that it isn't new player friendly. You have to be a veteran, you have to be a player who's been playing since versions 1.0 or 2.0 or 2.5. Basically, you have to be an old player to benefit from this. So if you're a new player, this video probably isn't for you, but if you're an old player who's really confused on who to get, let's just dive into it. Now first of all, I'm gonna mention that the standard characters are there. If you're a new player and you want standard character constellations, I would just recommend you to go for Tighnari. That is it, or Jean. Yeah, Tighnari or Jean, both of them are amazing. But otherwise, in the due course of playing this game, you will eventually lose to 50-50s and you will lose to all of them. At some point or the other, you will lose. So I just wouldn't recommend going for a standard character constellation, because you know that you will eventually get them at some point. And then you have the annual anniversary thing where you get to choose a standard character. So it's just that you don't need to necessarily do it. I'm going to focus on the limited characters here, and you should also be focusing on the limited characters. If you don't have them, do not worry, this event isn't going anywhere. Like I said, it is a permanent addition to this game, so it is not going anywhere. There's no FOMO over here. Now we begin with Klee. I would not recommend it at all. The constellations for Klee are quite bad, and she just plays very clunky, as I've heard, and I've tried her in trials and all, and I just can't seem to get around and play her really well. She's not quite comfortable as, Hu Tao or Arlecchino or Maoika, or even, Chevreuse or Garming for that matter. She's just very weird. She's got that year one sort of problem, and her constellations actually show for it, because they literally do nothing. They have no relevance with what she is aimed to do. She wants to be a DPS, but then if you read her C4, if you read her C6, which is the last constellation, which has to be the big bang of every character, it regenerates 3 energy for all members of the party excluding Klee, and it gives a 10% pyro damage bonus. So what are we doing over here? Klee isn't a support, Klee is a DPS. So the constellations are all weird, and I would not recommend going for Klee cons at all. But if you love her, go for it. I'm not stopping you. This is just a recommendation video. It's based on my personal opinions. You do not need to take word on it. Just enjoy it. Get a third opinion or something. So alright, after Klee, we have Tartaglia, Mr. Worldwide Child. Now once again, his constellations aren't that great, because he again suffers from the early Genshin Impact era curse where constellations just sucked. But if you really want it, I would recommend C4, because what I thought, that C4 is the only thing that is actually good, because it's his main form of dealing damage, and he applies Riptide Flash and Riptide Slash on his opponents, which is again another part of him dealing damage. So C4 is the only one I would recommend, and this is only applicable if you have C3 child on your account. But apart from that, if you eventually want to C6 him, just get his C1 or C2 or whatever you have. If you love a character, just go for the constellation. There's no stopping you. But I'm just bringing this out so people can see which constellations are worthwhile. You do not need to search here and there like I did trying to make this video. Okay, after Tartaglia, we have Albedo. Now for Albedo, I would only recommend C2, although Albedo is very in a in a very weird state right now, because after Chiori released, I mean, Chiori is everything Albedo could have hoped to be, and even better. Chiori is amazing. So Albedo has fallen off quite a bit, but if you still love playing Albedo, C2 is his way to go, because it increases his own personal damage. And the rest of the constellations are quite meh, because I mean, you don't really use crystallize that much. And plunging attacks, if you really want to play plunge, you have Xianyun right now, so just pull for Xianyun. She buffs plunge really well. And then you have Varesa, who is literally a plunge DPS, or Gaming. So yeah, plunge is really not that working well for Albedo. So C2 is where I would stick for Albedo. Now after that, Ganyu. Now Ganyu was the first insane DPS of Genshin Impact. I remember the days when Ganyu was like, Ganyu can kill anything because it's Ganyu. So when you have the choice of getting Ganyu cons, you can use C1, C2 or C4. I don't think C6 is that good, because it just decreases its charging time to 0, which, I mean, in the overall picture, she's already killing stuff really fast. So Ganyu, I would recommend C1, because decreasing cryo resistance is actually very good. C2 because you get another skill charge, which is very beneficial for energy regen. And C4 because it provides a support role as well. Like, it increases the damage enemies take, and it's nice. It's a nice support effect. Like, if you have supports, if you have off-field supports like Yae Miko or Farina supporting Ganyu, so you can use that. So it's kind of nice. So I would recommend C1, C2 or C4 only. That's it. Now with Xiao, I would only recommend C1 or C6. There is no in between. Like, if you're stuck in between, just go ahead and get C6, or if you have C0, just get C1 and call it a day. Because his constellations are absolute crap. I mean, I was reading them and I was like, what the hell is this? What were they smoking when they made Xiao? I mean, he's such a beloved character. And then you give him the kit of a lifetime. So, I mean, it is the C4 is complete crap. But whatever. So, for Xiao, I would only recommend C1 and C6. That is it. That is only it. Now comes Hu Tao, the other insane DPS of Genshin in the early days. Hu Tao started to be one of the strongest, and was the strongest DPS until I think Al-Haytham came out or something, and was the strongest Pyro DPS until Arlecchino came out. So obviously, Hu Tao, if you want constellations, just get C1. C1 changes her. It changes her playstyle, because you don't have to manage the stamina bar anymore. C2 is good for her personal damage increase, and it increases the Blood Blossom effect that she applies when she does charge attacks. Also, her burst also applies that effect now, which is really good. And then if you are stuck somewhere in C3 or C4, I would recommend to just go ahead and get C6, because with C6 she literally becomes immortal. If you can play really well and manage the 1 minute time around, 1 minute timer, you can just she's really immortal. I mean, you can read the constellation effect. It is just insane. 100% crit rate increase, physical resistance, elemental resistance, and you already have crit damage on her, so she is just broken at C6, if you know how to perfectly manage her, that is. So that is the constellations that I would recommend for Hu Tao. After that, we have Eula, and I would not recommend anything, because Eula is in a very bad state, with the physical meta being non-existent. So sorry Eula fans, I love Eula, I have Eula, but unfortunately don't get any constellation for her. Like, it's not recommended. If you love her, get it, but I wouldn't recommend it. Alright, now comes Ayaka, the cryo DPS of the game before Skirk was a thing. So Ayaka on a whole has a very balanced kit, and you can see that because from Inazuma they started focusing on better kits, better constellations for some characters. It gets better in Sumeru, but for some characters in Inazuma the constellations were getting better. So for Ayaka, I would recommend C2, C4 or C6. Like if you have C1, it doesn't really do anything for her because that skill already has a short cooldown, so you won't ever notice the cooldown reduction from her normal attacks. C2 is where she gets interesting because when you use her burst, she generates 2 small storms as well, which is nice, which is extra damage to her, already boosted damage. And then if you use C4, you have defense shred on her burst, which is once again amazing. And then C6 is where she just, has her charge attack be a nuke. That is it. And when you play Ayaka, you're most of the time doing 2 normal attacks, 3 normal attacks, and then converging into a charged attack. And then using your skill again and getting your burst and repeat. Cycle and repeat. So that's what I would recommend. C2, C4 or C6. But if you want to get close to C2, get C1. It's still good. Like not insanely good, but it's still like, one step closer to your goal kind of good. Okay, after Ayaka, we have Yoimiya. Once again, a character that is beloved by all, has a great voice actor, is Rin Tosaka in JP, but her constellations are absolute crap. So I would not ever recommend getting constellations for her. Like all of these are complete shit. Like I don't even know what they were doing for my best girl of Inazuma. Like why would they do that for her? So yeah, skip Yoimiya. Just don't get anything for her. It is not worth it at all. Okay, after Yoimiya, we have Kokomi. Now Kokomi is a healer. So while I was reading her constellations, since I don't have her, I was reading Kokomi's constellations, and her constellations do not match with her kit at all because she is a healer. She needs to heal. But then you have certain constellations that are boosting her normal attack speed, that are boosting her damage, that are boosting her hydro damage, and it just kind of doesn't make sense at all. So I would only recommend C1, especially because Kokomi is used quite frequently in Bloom teams, especially Nilou Bloom, and when you play Nilou Bloom, Kokomi is mostly on field, so having that extra hydro damage is actually really good. Even though Bloom nukes are going all around you, but still that minor damage will probably work. After that, I would not recommend, getting her unless you're going for C6, which is where, she gains a hydro damage bonus for her normal and charge attacks when she heals party members who are above 80% HP, which is like most of the time when you're playing Kokomi. So overall, yeah, just get the C1 and be done with it. Or if you have invested a lot in Kokomi and you are missing out a few 2 or 3 constellations, just go for that. After that, Arataki Itto. I would just recommend getting C1 and be done with it because all his other constellations just are kind of meh to me. Like I was reading it and it wasn't making much sense because you already have good supports for Itto. You have Yunjin, you have Goro who are supporting him in their normal attack speed, and Goro with his Mono Geo comp. Yeah, it just works really well, and I don't know why his constellations weren't really fitting well with what I usually see with how Itto is played. So I think his C1 is good enough, or if you want C6, he gets a crit damage increase, but I mean, you would only get C6 if you've invested him till C5. So like, yeah, if you have Itto and you love him and you have him at C0, C1 is the way to go. It's a nice damage bonus to himself, but overall it's just, his entire constellation set is pretty meh. Okay, after that we have Shenhe. Now Shenhe is a character that is actually really good, especially with the resurgence of Cryo being relevant again after it was ignored during the entire Fontaine era for some reason. So we have C1, which is absolutely amazing because it is a good quality of life upgrade, and it helps Shenhe gain energy faster, and it increases her uptime on her skill mechanic, on her Icy Quills. After C1, I would recommend getting C4. C2 is quite meh because it only buffs cryo crit damage. Now if it had been cryo damage, that would have been amazing. But cryo crit damage, even though you're critting most of the time when you're playing cryo, but still like you might not crit, and it's just damage loss over there. So it's kind of like meh. Divine Maiden's Deliverance lasts longer though, but we have characters right now who have exceptional off-field cryo applications in the form of Charlotte and Citlali or Layla. So the C2 doesn't make sense at all. C4 is good because, you know, when characters deal damage, Shenhe gets her self buff, and when she uses a skill again, the icy quills that get applied to your new characters have increased damage potential. So it's like, you know, she's extra buffing them. So C4 is for the extra buff, and then C6 just, you know, erases the limit on her icy quill. So like, you know, you can go guns blazing with your DPS, give no damn about the icy quills and the 6 hits and stuff. So that is it. I would definitely recommend C1 Shenhe though. C1 Shenhe is a great quality of life upgrade. Okay, after that we have Yae Miko. Now, from Yae Miko, we started to see that, you know, Constellations were getting better and better. Like, you know, they wanted to incentivize people to getting their C1s and C2s. So they locked QOL behind it for monetary reasons. Because Genshin does love to make money irrespective of what they said in the live stream. Yae Miko, just get C1, it solves her energy problems. C2 increases her attack range, which is amazing. Or C6, defense shred, like it literally ignores 60% of the opponent's defense. I mean, what good? It's amazing. It is magnificent. So C1, C2 or C6. That is the way to go. Yae Miko's Constellations are actually really good, despite what people think that, you know, she's at top. She's a crap character. She's actually not. She's a really good character, especially for off-field electro application. Now after that we have Kamisato Ayato, who has the most horrendous kit ever. Like, I was reading him and it was Xiao all over again. I was like, you know, what were they smoking when they cooked this man? And they cooked this gorgeous man and then gave him the crap of a lifetime. Like, this was before Hydro was centered around HP bonus, so his kit is all over the place. His scales on max HP, and he has attack bonuses on his C6, which doesn't make sense at all. And his skill scales on his max HP, I think, and I have no idea. The only constellation that I could find to be good for him was C2, which increases his own personal damage, I think. I don't have Ayato, so I can't really test him out, but I think C2 increases his own personal damage, and C4 is for support capabilities. So like, you know, if you're using Ayato in a Skirk team for some reason, his burst will increase Skirk's damage, normal attack speeds. Like, you know, you can use Ayato and Dahlia and then Escoffier and Skirk, and you have this really super fast Skirk hitting normal attacks. It could be like that. But that is it. Ayato on a whole, I would not recommend going for his Constellations at all. Okay, after that we have Cyno. Now Cyno is a character that, you know, is amazing. Really good for quicken, for aggravate reactions, you know, electrodendro comps. The thing is, his Constellation, I mean, overall Cyno's kit is on the lower side of the damage part. I don't know why they gave him that kind of stuff, but he just doesn't deal enough damage. For someone being the General Mahamatra of Sumeru, I don't know why he does not deal damage. But if you want Cyno cons, I would recommend C1 or C2. C1 because it increases his normal attack speed, so you're hitting faster, and C2 because it increases his electro damage, so you're hitting harder. C1 and C2 are a good stopping point, and I feel like, you know, you don't need to go more than that. So that is for Cyno. After that, Nilou. Nilou is an interesting character because she will see a huge comeback in Nordcry with the release of Lauma, who is, you know, a Bloom character who focuses on Hydro and Dendro Bloom. So Nilou is her perfect companion. Most of you, if you're looking at Nilou cons, I would definitely recommend to get C1 or C2. That is a stopping point. That is just great. You do not need anything more than C1 or C2. Because after that, you just don't need it. Nilou does not do that much damage, and you do not want crit rate or crit damage for her. You just want her buff to enable Nilou Bloom cores. So with C1, you're getting 100% uptime on her skill. So you have the 100% uptime on her Hydro Ring, which is great. Which is which is great. You can run mono Hydro. You can run Nilou as the only Hydro in the team and have 3 other Dendro characters and it would still work. Unlike C0 Nilou, which runs into the problem of not applying enough Hydro at times. And then with C2, she decreases the Hydro resistance and the Dendro resistance, which is phenomenal for Nilou Bloom, which is the most needed stuff. So C2 is a great stopping point. C1 and C2, I would definitely recommend getting Nilou cons from this event. After that, Wanderer. Now, Wanderer was a character that, I read his kit, and I was like, he can work with any constellation. All his constellations are good. Like, I read them all. I read his kit because I don't have Wanderer, but before Chaska, he was the best Anemo DPS. He is probably still the best Anemo DPS because Chaska, let's be honest, doesn't do Anemo damage at all. She just uses Swirl to enhance her damage. She's kind of a fraud to the Anemo DPS type stuff, but Wanderer is a great character, is a strong DPS, and all his constellations are amazing because all of them boost his own damage. It's not some stupid crap like like C4, when he uses his burst he buffs other characters Anemo damage and stuff. No, that's not it. He buffs his own damage. It is amazing, and most likely you're using C6 Faruzan with him or Faruzan in general with Wanderer, which will obviously enhance him a lot. So with Wanderer, you're good to go for anything. That is just my assumption though. I'm not a Wanderer fan. I mean, I don't have him, so you can obviously understand by that, but I do want him someday, and this kid is phenomenal. Like, Wanderer is one character you cannot go wrong with. After that, Baizhu, the final character from this list. With Baizhu, I'll recommend C1, C2, or C6. That is it. C1, energy and an extra charge on his skill, the quality of life stuff. And then C2 is actually good for off-field Dendro application without having to switch back to Baizhu, because when you're playing your active character, Baizhu will automatically unleash a charge of his skill and it will deal damage, Dendro damage, and then heal you. Unfortunately, the C2 will deal damage based on Baiju's attack for some reason, because Hoyoverse loves to crap on these constellations, but it's still good for the off-field Dendro application. And then C6 is just broken as hell, because he just generates a Dendro shield every time his skill hits, or he unleashes his burst or whatever, and it is amazing. It is absolutely amazing. So with that being said, these are all my recommendations for this latest event. Once again, I'm mentioning that this is not a hard and fast rule. You should not go by my words seriously. This is just my opinion on what people should generally aim for. Like, if you ask me, I will go for Baizhu Z1, Nilou Z1, Shenhe C1, and then I'm still wondering on the fourth one. I mean, it's probably going to be Yae Miko C1. So that is my 4 characters that I will get through the course of this entire year. But that is it for now. Hope you enjoyed this informational video. I mean, I hope you enjoyed it. And thanks for watching. Please subscribe to support me, and have a great day. I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.